It's Sunday, and it's an adventure with Willis and Clark.
Hooray. I like adventures.
Adventures are awesome.
They are one of my favorite things.
How do you get your videos on TV?
They get uploaded to YouTube, and then you watch them on YouTube on the TV, and that's how you see them on the TV.
And Daddy's always narrating.
Not always.
Really?
Just for the two ones that we did like that, I narrated.
So your dad actually narrates everything that he does at all times of the day for as long as he's been around. Sometimes he'll do it in third person. So, your dad will wake up and he'll just start muttering to himself things like, he removed the covers from his bed, opened his eyes, and briefly wondered if he preferred a cup of coffee or a shower. He looked at the clock. He was late for work. Would this be one of the days he wasn't able to do either? Honey, you really need a shower. He heard his wife from the other side of the bed. Also, your dad narrates like Batman does.
Everything is better if you do it in the Batman voice.
That's true.
Really?
Yeah, man. The Batman is great. Among so many other things, he... Actually, it occurs to me that as I try to describe why I like Batman, it's actually a pretty bad lesson for children to hear.
Yeah,
he solves his problems through violence. He makes it a point to hurt poor people and not the systems that create poverty.
I think it's the bad guy. He stops the Joker, because the Joker is the one who hurts all the bad people.
I keep making it start over for no reason.
Well, we are driving in a car, and you have that ball maze thing that you're playing with.
It's a lot easier when
It doesn't really work when you're in a vehicle that's moving.
I feel like I was your son's age when I learned that same lesson. Trying to it's like one of those ball mazes, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to get the thing to move around.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I seem to be doing well, and then the car turns and I fail.
Such is life.
Right?
Come on! I've done it twice in the car.
Pancake breakfast. We missed a pancake breakfast at the Penfield Fire Hall.
Yeah, there was one yesterday and one today. I didn't go.
Though I feel like we've had enough pancakes, because we had pancakes for dinner the other night.
Tell me more about the pancakes that you ate for dinner.
Kim was fried, and she's like, what do you want? We don't have any food in the house. And I was proposing vegetable lo mein, and then she decided, why not just make pancakes? So she made a quadruple batch of pancakes from scratch. And they were delicious. No, we have I don't know, the triple batch that was left over or whatever is in the freezer. We have so many pancakes now.
Well, in fairness, pancakes are pretty great.
Pancakes are delicious. Is that guy? He is. That's a suit jacket and a motorcycle jacket, I think.
Oh, I quit.
I'm always nervous around motorcyclists on these sorts of roads.
Yeah, because one wrong move and it's body parts everywhere.
Yeah, man.
When I was a kid, there was a guy that got hit down here and they were picking him up all over the road. That's why I would never get on a bike. It's just too dangerous.
Why do you think it's too dangerous to ride a bike?
Because you have no protection. You have people that are in cars. There was a truck that almost hit me on my way to the church because it decided it was going to run the red light. And the light had been red for a while. People were going through the intersection, and then I was starting to go through, and he just drove right through it at 50 miles an hour. Because apparently red lights are suggestions.
Yeah, I mean,
for some people.
It's not like it's the law or anything. Not real talk, dude. I feel like there's like a switch that gets flipped in your head when you reach a certain age. I think that age can be variable depending on the person, but like once you become more family oriented, a lot of like activities that would seem to be like really interesting and exciting and, you know, they're going to get your adrenaline flowing, they go from being very cool to, oh man, that could endanger me and my family. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say it was as soon as I had a family, that changed in me, because it's like, oh man, I have to be responsible now.
So let's get into compact talk.
Compact.
Yeah. Well, domestically, maybe the current U.S. drama is whether or not there's going to be a budget passed at the end of this month for the forthcoming fiscal year.
Yeah.
Where that matters from the compact perspective is that, you know, both executives have already signed the compact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the FSM Congress has passed it. So it's just the U.S. Congress that has to finish that work. And, well, I think there might be a continuing resolution that would continue funding. The main idea is that if nothing is done, then at the end of this month, the bank of the FSM loses FDIC insurance. There won't be any more FAA regulations for the FSM for some temporary amount of time, and that would necessarily impact flights from United, which is the only major international commercial carrier that flies in and around the place. Never mind the funding stoppages that could impact the education, health, and infrastructure sectors.
Wow, that's really bad.
It's pretty significant. And then there's a couple of interesting additional pieces to it. For the Marshall Islands specifically, you know, the way how the U.S. does the compact is they put all the compacts into one law.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're dealing with three separate countries. So the FSM and Palau are done with their compact negotiations. Everything's signed. Everything's good to go. And the Marshalls are trying to get this $700 million for nuclear legacy compensation.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a hypothetical critic could say, well, the Marshall Islands already had a nuclear legacy compensation fund. And in addition to that, they've also spent it all. More recently, in the last 5 to 6 years, I seem to think it was the funding from for Bikini Atoll. Tens of millions of dollars. Their whole trust fund is just gone. So one could make the argument that there has already been a nuclear legacy compensation fund, and that government officials in the Marshall Islands have not been the best stewards. On the other hand, cancer rates in Bikini and Kwajalein and Majuro are high. The U.S. has recently agreed to give more money to folks in Guam and the Northern Marianas due to fallout from the nuclear testing in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And at least from my own personal perspective, okay, so they ran out of money. Give them a new trust fund and maybe have a couple more financial controls so that way it really goes to the people and doesn't go to, some sort of guy looking to make a quick buck off of the backs of
Everybody
brothers
else,
and sisters.
yeah.
That seems to me to be the right thing.
Are you still filming?
Oh yeah, it's all filming.
But so, I promise I'll finish my soapbox in just a moment. But so the State Department allegedly doesn't want to call it nuclear legacy.
Why can't we see anything?
They don't want to call it nuclear legacy. Why?
I seem to be of the view that it has some sort of legal complication with something. But critically, I haven't seen any public-facing documentation to that effect. So I'm not feeling very good about the U.S. passing a budget.
I'm not
keeping
either.
The government running, and by extension, fixing the issue with the compacts. I feel like one could make the argument that the Marshall Islands needs to be better stewards of its financial resources for its people. But at the same time, the U.S. State Department should simply call it a nuclear legacy compensation fund, because that's what it
That's
actually
what it is. I mean, we're the ones who went and detonated all those atomic bombs over there in the 50s.
Call it what it is and let them have it. Because right now, the Marshall Islands, like so many of those small countries, Montreal only has a 30-day limit of water supply.
Really?
Yeah. I relies very heavily on making sure the rainfall is proper and fine and decent. The infrastructure is such where one would, if you go there, you might not believe that the country has a compact with the U.S. To some degree, that's going to be because the Marshallese government makes decisions that it thinks are in its best interests. And by extension, the U.S. doesn't want to lord over people. On the other hand, it's also, in my view, because there isn't enough resources available, I can remember in the FSM context, for example, we only recently were able to get the funding for Koshai's hospital.
Right.
And the amount of, metaphorical teeth that we had to pull to get it. This is like a $30 million project. The practical effect of not having the hospital or having a suitable hospital is that, of course, if people are sick, they have to be referred abroad.
Right.
Mr. Cloak, you should try muffins.
Oh, I will. Thank you very much. It ends up just costing more money. And since so much of the healthcare sector comes from the compact anyway, you could even make the argument that for the U.S. taxpayer, it's a better deal to have better infrastructure in the freely associated states. But so all that's very exciting in a boring and or terrifying and or bureaucratic kind of way.
Yes.
Yeah.
One party has to have a temper tantrum, and it wrecks it for everybody.
He's not necessarily wrong that we means yes in France, although I presume that they spelled it with a W.
Yeah.
Yeah.
W-E-E, W-E-E.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because it's all pee and poop and penises and butts.
Yeah.
Yes, tra-la-la.
Yeah, but how old are they again? They're like
6 and 8.
Yeah.
Almost 7 and 9.
I mean, that's the age that you write wee-wee on things. And at least that's a word that we understand. Now, there's plenty of slang that I don't get.
Yeah.
When I was a Peace Corps volunteer, I'd have my Punpin students writing swag in their notebooks. I don't know what that means.
Swag?
Yeah.
You mean like the grab bag that they give you when you go to
That's what I always assume that swag is. No, it's just the word swag.
What is swag?
I don't know. And I'd ask, they'd be like, oh, it's slang. Okay. And then, people would say apodox. I'm like, what's apodox? Oh, it's slang. Okay. But op means butt, right? Like B-U-T. Dox, I guess, is like a short version of like Doc Hutch, which is like, what's that? It's like apodox. Like, well, what's that? Is that what it means? Oh, no, it doesn't mean that. Okay. Well, what is it? It's slang. Okay. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not cool.
Or the real message here is that no matter where you are in the world, it is all penises and butts and wee-wee and poo. Well, maybe, and we're all the same, really.
Maybe that's the American way of looking at things.
Wonders of modern technology.
Let's just repeat that. Watch this. I turned on the controller, and it turned on the Xbox. Man, that's deep.
We could have a series where you narrate books and things in that voice.
Power Rangers! We're definitely gonna like this.
Oh, Power Rangers. You're definitely going to like this.
Oh, jeez.
Metal Gear. A Hind-D. A surveillance camera? Meryl.
Why is everything a question?
David Hayter goes throughout the entirety of Metal Gear Solid just being completely confused. Genome soldiers! So what's on our agenda?
I don't know. We're going to play some Magic today. We're going to go to Mochi Nut, do some donuts.
We're not moving any tables.
No. But if you would like to.
Nah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Your wife was right, though. That actually would have been the best adventure.
It would have been the best content. It would have been the best adventure. Watch this fool try and move a basement or a table. Yeah, I'm going to move a basement.
No, people would have thought it was scripted.
They would have, but it wasn't.
No.
It was just my stupidity. And then I got stuck in the corner at the end.
It could have been solved if we moved the other table, right?
We never even needed to move that table.
Yeah.
We never needed to move it at all.
Man.
This is why we need women in our lives, as much as we don't want to admit it.
Oh, no, I'm happy to admit it. My wife is just better than I am. Smarter, more attractive, stronger, faster.
So's mine.
I mean, basically, if it's something measurable, like, she has more skills than I do, and she's better at all of them.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, growing up, I saw Red Green, and it was like, oh, why are the men buffoons? Well, it's because men are buffoons. It's just kind of the reality of life.
It is, although I like to think that we're jovial, loving, kind buffoons.
Indeed.
As opposed to, what you see in action films where they're still buffoons, but also they're jerks.
That is true.
Trying to take over the world, or, they're...
But women like the jerks. The bad boy is exciting.
Do they?
They love the bad boy. They love the jerk.
I feel like all of the media I've been consuming in the last week or two has been almost exclusively focused on strong women.
Oh, that's the modern left that's taken over the mass media and stuff here in the West. Like, that's all that it is. You're gonna see it. There's no men. There's no straight white men. Like, nope. It's all strong woman boss focused. That's what it is. It's how it is. And it's just another biases, honestly.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know that I have any issue with it. Did you ever see the movie Annihilation, for example?
No. That
film is terrific. For one thing, it doesn't actually market itself as being a movie about strong women. It's just that all of its cast are women. Came out in 2018. So, it comes out around the same time that the new Ghostbusters did.
If
I have my timeline right. And, that film was awful, right?
That was horrible.
That was just a terrible movie.
If you want to see a good movie about a strong woman, you should watch Alien.
Sure, but also Annihilation, if you're looking for a more recent film.
I don't know. I don't watch many recent Hollywood films because I sort of feel like Hollywood today is kind of trash and they just are creatively bankrupt and all they do is recycle old ideas and do remakes and reboots and jump on whatever the modern trend is and they want to try and capitalize on it. And maybe that's what they've always done, but in the past what they were producing was good or was for me. I don't know. I just feel like there's no art.
Nothing good has happened since the 90s.
Yes.
And with the whole world's completely stagnated, and everything is terrible. That's how millennials see things, right? Think everything is terrible.
I don't think everything is terrible.
I'm actually pretty happy with a lot of things. Crime is down. It doesn't seem like it sometimes with all the news about mass shootings and whatever, which is definitely an America problem.
Is it down? Because here in Rochester, I don't know. I don't even pay attention to it. I'm so desensitized to all the
US
violence.
Average, the crime has been on a downward trend since the 90s.
Well, that's probably due to the lack of lead that has been put into the atmosphere because we got rid of leaded gasoline in the late 80s, and the more lead that was exposed to people, the more violent they become. and the greater the amount of crime. And when they got rid of that, there's less lead in the environment, so people grow up with less, and then they're more pacified, I guess. There was a study done on that. I read about back in the wild, and like it peaked like in the 70s or the 80s with the peak of leaded gas. And once they got rid of leaded gas and they moved to unleaded gasoline, they immediately saw a decline start to happen, with there being less than there was less. It was fascinating. They also talked about how the guy who created leaded gasoline basically did it to fill his own pockets. It was like him and one other person, and they knew what they were doing was bad, and like it was super toxic for the environment, and they just didn't care because they were going to make their money, and by the time it was really a problem, they'd be dead. So yeah, it was interesting. I heard about that a couple months ago.
On a somewhat happier note, this is a fake story, but several months ago or a year ago, in my imagination, I went to Alaska because I wanted to join the Iditarod. And so I went to wherever it is that the Iditarod begins to get myself a group of sled dogs. I needed to get some dogs to run my sled, get me from point A to point B.
Yo, where my dog's at?
That was essentially what I was asking, and people said that I was being aggressive and boisterous. And also that I was not appropriately dressed. I was wearing clothes. It's just, I was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. And that's
much like today.
Yeah, or most days. And that's just not, the right thing to do in Alaska. What with it being relatively chilly. But so I get to the dog store, and I have my selection of different dogs to choose from, and I choose my dog team. And at the checkout line, the guy asked me, regarding your dogs, sir, would you like them to be leaded or unleaded?
So you bought your dogs for the Iditarod from the dog store.
I just wanted to make the leaded or unleaded joke. Like leaded or unleaded gasoline?
Oh.
Yeah.
Leaded or unleaded. Oh,
yeah,
I'm slow.
I was just going for that.
Well, I ruined that. Content. We're generating content. We make content.
I mean, it's only a little embarrassing. That's okay.
That's what I do. I embarrass myself perpetually, all the time.
I used to feel that way, but then I became more aware of how the world actually works, how it's run. And there's something really humbling about being in a room with all kinds of leaders, or being at the United Nations General Assembly, being in very important meetings with security officials and politicians and such, and just realizing that a lot of people are myopic and idiotic, and there's no reason to be humble in some respects about anything. Like, everybody's an idiot. That's not an attack
it's just
on
truth.
global leadership. It's just that the people who run a country are not necessarily any better equipped at doing so than any other person off the street.
That's a scary thought.
And that's the conclusion that I've reached. That doesn't mean that global leadership as a collective are bad, necessarily. But it is certainly something I noticed. And that's why I don't feel embarrassment about anything. Even when I walk through tops and I realize halfway through that my fly is down.
It happens to the best of us.
And the worst of us.
Yes.
It just happens to us.
It does. It does. All right, so let's. I think we should cut it here, and
probably have at least 2 minutes of actual audio content to use.
Well, so we'll cut it here, and like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next one.